Our guest today is a CA. He's qualified. He's competent. He's experienced. He's been around the block and knows a thing or two about the CA career. He also applied in his articles for RPL, recognition of prior learning, to shorten his sentence to psycho articles. Yes, from 3 years of suffering to 2. He shortened his articles and he says it was the greatest mistake he has ever made in his career. Why, you ask? Today we are joined by Mohamed Ebrahim Tayob, CASA, founder and host of the Chat EBT podcast and entrepreneur. We chat about his greatest career mistake and why it cost him 2 to 3 years of his career growth. We also chat about his taking the plunge of being himself, the power of singular purpose and vision, why we should zoom out on our careers to contextualize our failures, why the greatest business people are not the best musicians, but the best conductors, how the CA journey shapes you into a leader, and more. I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA, very, very quick one. Our guest today has a great podcast called Chat EBT, where he interviews movers and shakers in business and life. He's had the likes of a Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 nominee, the founder of Legends Barber. He had a Psycho Chairman's Award winner. He's had incredible people talking about really cool stuff. So if you are interested in checking out that show, it will be linked in the show notes. Alternatively, you can check it out on channel 345 at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. So it's also on DSTV. So there you have your other channel. With that, on to the episode. Welcome back, my people. This is the Road to CA podcast, the show for aspiring chartered accountants. Today, we are joined by a CA podcaster. Yes, he is a CASA and founder of the Chat EBT Show, a podcast where he sits down with trailblazer businessmen and women and trailblazers of life. Most importantly, however, he is a father of 3 and loves to play golf in his spare time. We are joined by the man, the entrepreneur. We are joined by Mohamed Ebrahim EBT Tayob. EBT, how are you?
I'm very, very well, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited, man, because you don't fit the mold.
I've been told.
And I'm excited to hear from a CA, as we always, and on this podcast, love to hear, who doesn't fit the mold.
That's very interesting. And I think it's become a sort of thing that, if you're an accountant or an auditor or a CA, you're sort of this very type A personality.
Yeah.
You're sort of a very strict person, very quiet. It was me at a certain point in my life.
Sure.
And then it just changed along the way.
Where do you think it changed, eh?
University changed for me.
Sure.
Well, put it this way. I kind of was always this person, but I was just a very, very shy person. And then I think, school didn't really have the best times in school and stuff like that. I was this very shy, reserved person. And then sort of when I went into university, I decided to embrace who I am and, decided to do me. And things then just started changing from there. And then I just started being more of myself, in all honesty.
Like the worst, best advice, I was having a conversation with my brother yesterday, is be yourself. Because it's the most generic, like, wishy-washy, vaguey thing. But it's so true. Isn't it just like, it's all come full circle? Because you said, it's not like you've really changed. It's just more that you've become who you are.
Yeah, and I think when you start doing that and you realize that you can do that,
Mm.
and I think a lot of the times we sort of live our lives by, what will people think, what will people say, and when you just put that aside and kind of, Mel Robbins got that book that's become like the biggest thing in the world called Let Them. So yeah, let them do their thing, man.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do mine.
You also mentioned that a big part of your current moment is that you're still deciding on the next chapter of the journey, which is also speaking to that spirit of just being okay with being where you are. Like we're not all, in fact, life, we'll seldom have things figured out. And that is where we should be comfortable being comfortable being uncomfortable, being comfortable being in between. But let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back. Rewind to where this whole CA thing began for you.
So actually, I love telling the story as sort of like a inspiring and advisory tale at the same time, right?
Okay.
So I always say this is that I actually decided to become a CA at a very young age. I think I was 9 when I decided to become a CA, right?
I recall that. Yeah.
Everybody kind of, was just saying, oh, yeah. My dad especially was, you know what, if you want to be something, become an accountant or a CA, you'll be set for life. And that sort of always sat with me. But it was this one particular moment. I was in grade 5 at the time.
Okay.
And we actually had the subject at the end of the day. It was the teacher was ill or something, I can't remember. And we had a substitute teacher. And it's the last period of the day. Nobody wants to do any work, right? So the teacher actually could see this, and she was just like, "I'm not going to even try."
Sure.
And she just went, "Okay, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about what do you guys want to be when you grow up."
What?
And she turned to the board and she was writing, as everybody said, doctor, and somebody said pilot, and somebody said fireman, and I said chartered accountant.
At 9 years old.
Yeah, and she stopped and she said, "Who said that?"
Oh my gosh.
And then I put up my hand and she said, "Brilliant. Well done. Wow. That's amazing." Wow. And I think that sort of solidified the idea for me.
Wow.
Is that, okay, yeah, everybody's telling me, and now this woman just basically confirmed it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this. So in all honesty, that's just my life just went in that direction. I remember my entire high school life was, I'm going to do accounting. I didn't really think of anything else. I applied to one university for one course. That's it. I had no backup. I had no other options. I didn't have anything else that I was thinking of. Yeah. I was going to become a CA. And so I went to the University of Pretoria. I signed up for BCom Accounting Sciences. And yeah, that's the story, man. That's how my journey started.
One track, one mind. There's this brilliant quote that I think, although, as a young person, we talk about like, don't close yourself off because things can change. Mm-hmm. There is a beauty in the simplicity of just focus. And there's this quote from Friedrich Nietzsche. He was a 19th century philosopher, German philosopher. And he said, I might be paraphrasing a bit, but better one virtue than two, because one virtue has more of a knot for destiny to cling to.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and it's basically that tenet of one virtue, one mission, one vision, one purpose, and you have a kind of clarity. And I think I even think of Goethe. He was also a writer, German writer. He once said that at the moment of commitment, the universe seems or begins to conspire for your success. And it's like, that's what one focus kind of brings into your path, that potential for just something, because it's not like this was easy, right? It didn't make the journey easier, but there's so much that you've gained through this thing that you just committed to.
Yeah, very, very true.
Yeah,
very true.
Your journey. Let's go back there now. So now you've you are already there. You're at the place that you decided to go to, one university, one course. You're at the University of Pretoria. What happens after that on the road to CA?
Oh, a lot of things went wrong.
Okay. Okay.
So, I think the CASA route, people don't realize, but it is a very, very challenging route, right? And I mean, people know about that. People say, you know what, it's very difficult, but I don't think we realize how difficult it actually is. And I think for me as a person, had no idea what I was really going into or what I was getting into. So first year was okay. I managed to pass everything first year, the first time out. Had one or two subs here and there, but overall everything went really great. And I think the thing about first year is that you kind of can take your knowledge through, right? Again, going back to school, I knew I was going to become an accountant. So the only subject I ever focused on was accounting. The others were just a byproduct of what I needed to do, right? I know I needed to get, obviously you needed
certain
to
maths
pass.
mark.
Yeah, you need to get the certain maths mark. You needed to pass English and Afrikaans and then accounting. There we go, right? And so my focus was only on accounting, and that knowledge pulled through to first year. So first year went great. Second year, and I think to anybody that's actually going into this course, know that second year is a whole different gear, right? And unfortunately, no matter how intelligent you are or however much knowledge you're bringing in, second year is where you actually just got to put in the work. And for me, I didn't do that. And so everything started unraveling. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't actually know at the time. I actually found out very late in my life that they call it late diagnosed ADHD. Right? So I was late diagnosed with ADHD. I think I got diagnosed at the age of 33. Right? So now looking back,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So looking back, those were very, very difficult years. I always smile and joke around about it to say I took a very scenic route with my with my degree, because I did second year twice. I did third year twice.
Yes.
And then I did my honors through UNISA. First year of honors, I was able to pass everything in one go. Second year, unfortunately, I got two subs and I was unsuccessful in one of them. So I did my second year second time
of CTA twice.
I really made worth of my time in university.
You colored the canvas.
Yeah. I went, like I said, the scenic route.
Yeah. And I love these stories because the truth is that many of us have so much color in our journey.
Very, very true.
Many of us have so much color. And I actually also had, I also, like us, we want a little bit of spice and flavor. We like the scenic route. So I actually also took a scenic path where I repeated my third year.
Okay.
And I failed third year in 2023. And on the backdrop of that, I launched this podcast. So literally, when I failed. So there's kind of two reasons why I did that. Is because, one, I knew that if I started the podcast during CTA, I would not either pass CTA or carry on with the podcast, do it in a manner that I seek to do it at. There was that. But then there was also the second part, which was that we need to get over this thing called failure. We need to destigmatize it. And I felt like, yeah, man, I just need to say it. Like, I literally almost failed. I literally just failed. I almost dropped out of university. That was actually the reason why I failed. I almost dropped out of university. I failed. And now I'm starting this podcast.
I think, if you look at it on the broad scale of things, right? And if I look at it, yes, it was a very, very difficult route, right? But if we look at it, I mean, you're going to be working in your career for what, like 30, 40 years. What's 2 years in that scope of things, right? For me, at the time, CA was the ultimate pinnacle, right? So the way I looked at it was, it sucks and I got to do this again. But in the scope of things, it's 2 years out of 40. Like, what's that? Like 5%, right? It's still worth it.
Right? I love the reframe. Just zoom out.
Yeah, just zoom out. 100%.
Just zoom out, man. you mentioned, so now, okay, you've been through this crucible. There's more within that in terms of your articles time.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the greatest mistake of your career happened at the end of your articles. Can you walk us through the greatest mistake of your career in your belief? It's very interesting. I think it's crazy.
No, and I always love sharing it because I think it's very, very important for people to know. And here's the thing, right? Is we need to take others' lessons and learn from it. So my biggest lesson. So backtrack a bit here and bear with me with this story because it could be a bit lengthy. All right. So at the time of studying, obviously all these firms sort of approach you, right? I think, in my second year or first third year, I can't really remember. And I was like, okay, you know what? All my buddies have been hired by a firm to do their articles. I think it's about time now I kind of go and look. And I wanted to keep my options open.
Sure.
And, I started interviewing at different firms.
Sure.
So I interviewed at the two big four firms that sort of stood out to me.
Sure.
Right. The one, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to badmouth anybody. Right. The one, I remember I did my interview practically in the lobby of the firm. Right.
Sure.
The HR consultant came down. They met with me. We had about a 15 to 20 minute chat. And a couple of days later, it took a little bit longer. I think it was a couple of weeks later, I got an offer letter, right? At the same time, I had an interview with Deloitte, right? Deloitte's interview was a 5 or 6 hour interview. Yeah. So what they did is they brought in a whole group of people. It was like, I can't even remember, probably about 30 of us, like 20 to 30 people. And you went through these different stages of interviews. So they first had a group of 10 and you sit down and you have a discussion amongst all of you.
I actually went through that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
right?
you talk about like something political or something around current affairs. Yeah.
And then you even write like a short essay or something. Then they did a 2-on-2 and they literally just chose a random topic and you spoke about it with the other person interviewing and 2 of the Deloitte consultants.
Sure.
And then you did your 1-on-1. And when I left that interview, I basically said, oh man, I want this one because I felt like I worked so hard for it. So when I got the Deloitte offer, it was honestly like a no-brainer. It was, okay, done. I'm signing with them.
Sure.
Then as things went on, obviously I was unsuccessful, as I mentioned. And during that second year of honors, so now I'm getting ready because in my head, I'm going to pass this year. Next year, I get to start my articles. And I've pushed off my articles, obviously, because, I did honors over 2 years and all of that.
Yes.
And then, unfortunately, I failed.
Yes.
Right? Now I'm at the point where we were expecting our first child.
Sure.
And I was married at the time. I was expecting my first child. And I basically said, okay, you know what? I can't keep putting this off, right? I need to start my articles. I need to start my career. So I went to Deloitte and I effectively told the person that I usually speak to there is like, look, I love this place. I always wanted to work here. It guts me to tell you this, but I need to start my career. We're expecting our first child. And they were fully understanding. And then I started interviewing at some of the smaller firms that were willing to take you without honors. Because at that time, and I'm sure it's still the same, the Big Four doesn't take you without honors, right? So while I was interviewing for a couple of like the medium-sized firms, I got a call from Deloitte to say, we don't know if you'd still be interested, but we have this position in our pension funds department. So it's essentially auditing pension funds, but it's not articles. But we're willing to accept people without honors in this role. And at the time, the way I thought about it is, okay, I'm kind of pushing my articles off another year, but I'm getting to work for Deloitte, which was at that time sort of like a dream of mine, right? I really want to work for this company. So I accepted the position and, off I went. Started working for Deloitte, really enjoyed my time in pension funds. I was, God is great. I was able to pass my second year honors. And so next year I'm starting my articles. Started my articles with Deloitte. And as we're going through this first year, there was another girl that was in the exact same position as me. So she did her pension fund as well. Exact same story.
Yeah.
Failed pension funds, passed, now
Yes.
going into articles.
Yes.
And it was sort of like, I think it was like April, May of our first year in articles that we realized that, hey, we could actually get some of our hours recognized from pension funds, because if essentially we were doing the exact same thing people do in articles.
Yes.
Like some of the article clerks used to join us on our pension fund audits.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was essentially the same job. So we found out, and I think they call it what, recognized prior learning or something like that. Right?
RPL.
RPL.
Yes.
Yeah.
Recognition of prior learning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so during our first year of articles, we found out that we could maybe do this. We applied, and great, we got it. Right.
And actually, just to quickly rewind on that, basically, for anyone who doesn't know, recognition of prior learning, RPL, is how you can maybe shorten your psycha article. So typically, it takes 3 years to be a psycha CA, 3 years of actual training. But if you've already done work before that, so you've already got prior learning that's in line with the psycha competencies, you can actually shorten that 3 years down to 2 years, or I think the max is 12 months reduction. But basically, you can shave off a whole year, so you can do it in 2.
Yeah, and so I remember we found out that we were going to get it recognized close to the time when everybody was getting ready to write board 2.
Sure.
And so I actually wrote board 1 and board 2 in the same year.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
I think we found out in I want to say June, July, and that's when everybody was starting their board courses and everything like that. And so great, was able to do that. Luckily, I was able to pass board 1 on my first attempt and board 2 on my first attempt. So great, right?
Phenomenal.
And now we're in this position where we have an option to essentially shorten our articles from 1 year, from 3 years,
3 years to
2 years.
Sure.
Right? But this is where the very, very big mistake happens.
Okay.
Right? So Deloitte sort of had their structure. And usually their structure was that you would be on an audit team for your full 3 years, right? Obviously, you're different audits throughout the year, but you'd be the first year, you'd be the second year, and then you'd be the third year on that audit. And how the structure usually works is the first year kind of does all the very junk sections on the audit. Sorry, it's a crap thing to say, but it is what it is, right? So you do the very simplified sections that bank and cash, and you do expenses and payroll and all of those sort of things, right? It needs to be done. It's very important.
It has to be. It's very important.
It is what it is, right? So we get the first years to do it.
Yeah.
The second years is where you do the real crux of the audit, right? So you're doing the most difficult section on the audit.
The judgment things.
The big significant risks, you know? And the third year is where you're leading the audit. So you don't really do much testing. You get involved, but you effectively, I don't know if it's the same across all firms, but they used to call it an AIC, auditor in charge.
I
right?
know it's the same at a big four that I'm at, but yeah.
So the third year is where you get to be the AIC, right? Now, Deloitte, to no fault of their own, right? So nothing wrong with what they did here because they had their structure in place. But now, obviously, when I started my articles, the idea was that I would do all 3 years. So the audits they put me on was that route.
Yes.
But now they're in a position where, okay, cool, we have this guy that's effectively now a third year, but we need a second year on our audit because we don't have a second year. He was supposed to be the second year. So what I ended up doing is doing my second year sections.
Yeah.
And then it came to the time when they said, okay, cool, you've finished all your competencies, you've done all your hours, great, we're happy to sign you off. And at the time, it sounded like the best thing in the world, right? Hey, I'm getting to do 2 years instead of 3. I get to just go out and now start my career, formally or officially, whatever you want to say. And so, all the advice I got was, 100%. If you could shave a year off, why not? That decision to shave a year off my career, in all honesty, probably cost me between 2 and 3 years in my career. And that's why I honestly say it was honestly probably one of the biggest mistakes I made in my career. Because here's the thing, right? I always go back to this, and I'll always tell somebody this when they bring up this topic. There is a specific reason articles are 3 years, right? Now, yes, I did 3 years effectively of articles, but in pension funds, I did effectively first year work. It was very different type of work. In second year, I did my first year of articles, I did first year article work. In my second year, I did second year article work. But guess what? I didn't do any third year article work. And the third year article work is where you learn to manage audits. You learn to manage teams, because that's essentially your role. That's essentially your job, right? Is you managing the team. And I didn't do any of that. So lo and behold, when I get to my next job,
your dream job, And at that time, going abroad. That was the dream at the time.
My goal and my dream, honestly, I'm glad you brought that up. My dream was to move overseas, right? However I was going to do it, I was going to do it.
Yeah.
So my initial always thought was, okay, I'll get a secondment with Deloitte and I'll go to whichever country they send me to, and hopefully I can impress people enough there and get a full-time job and stay on. That was the sort of thought process.
Sure.
Here's the thing, because I skipped a year, I obviously didn't get a secondment with Deloitte because I was the second semi-hybrid third guy. So I didn't get my secondment with Deloitte.
Yeah.
I was able to get a job with a Big Four firm in London, right? And so I moved up to London, relocated with my family, and this was the next step. This was the dream. And I went and started as an audit assistant manager, right?
Sure.
And in my first audit, I failed miserably because I did not have those skills that I needed at that time because I had skipped my third year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Look, recognize prior learning, RPL. There is probably a place for it. You know, maybe if you in a firm where they maybe see that and say, okay, you know what, this guy has the first year knowledge. Let's bump him up. Let's push him into that second year tier, and he can start his second year work and then do third year work.
Or let's say you're already a CFO of like 10 years experience, and you are wanting to get the CA designation.
Yeah.
And so there's a few things that you have to do, like your articles, like the APC. And so that's a person that is genuinely at a competency level that is, it's way up there. So you just have to make sure that you clear up those technical things that the CA helps with, the IAC and the APC exams. And then, because you're a CFO, just do 2 years of articles.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great example. And I think there maybe is a place for it, but you know, you got to take it with a big cautionary tale. And you know, when we spoke about what we can talk about on today's episode, I wanted to talk about this because I want it to be a cautionary tale to people that, you know, some things that seem very glamorous is sometimes can be the biggest shortcut and biggest pitfall in your life, right? And honestly, I still feel that way because I could see how much knowledge those third years got. And for me at the time, it was, okay. I mean, they don't really do the actual technical work. I'm still doing that, so I'm fine. And I'm sure I'll be able to manage a team. You know, like that seems simple compared to these very technical audit sections that we got to do. But man, that is probably the most difficult thing that you have to do. You know, we always hear this CAs are very desired. Like a very desired profession. CASA is such a big desired thing around the world. Honestly, it's because of that third year. Because of the soft skills that you learn. Because of how you learn to manage, how you learn to work with a team and time manage, project manage. You learn to be the bridge between your team and the managers and partners. You learn to be that bridge between your team and the actual client. And so all of that was actually just lacking. And because of that, I just played catch up my entire career after that.
Sure.
And yes, I was able to do things. I was able to still audit a section and all of that. But there was so much more that was needed that I just had no experience. And so it was literally that. It was me playing catch up the entire time. And that's why I say, honestly, it probably pushed me back 2 to 3 years at a minimum. Just trying to skip 1 year.
Shortcuts never work.
No, 100%. Articles, look, let's call it what it is, right? Articles suck.
It's hectic.
Everybody hates articles, right? Very, very few people actually enjoy articles. But here's the thing, and somebody actually put it to me really well one day. It's part of your studying, right?
Yeah.
And the guy that actually told me about that, he was talking at one of those lecture courses I did, and the common problem everybody has with articles is the pay is really bad, right? You get paid really, really bad. But here's the thing, you actually getting paid to study.
That's
right?
the thing.
There's so much knowledge that you got to take away from that. And I think a lot of people look at articles as, okay, it's the roadblock to my CA. I got to do these 3 years, no matter how crappy they are, no matter how, I hate doing it. I just got to push through. I just got to do my 3 years. I got to get my hours. I got to get my CA. But that is honestly the worst way to look at it. Articles is this ocean of knowledge that you get to take away. And I think a lot of people miss that. Like, where in another job, in your first ever year, do you get to sit in meetings with CEOs, CFOs, partners of firms, right? You
Partners.
Yeah.
Let's just stop there, man.
Exactly. You're getting to work with probably, it depends on firm to firm on how big it is. But I think at Deloitte, I probably got to work with about 5 or 6 different partners.
Sure.
Each of them had a different way of doing things. Each of them had a different technique, philosophy, and you learn from every single one of them. And I think people don't realize that there's just so much knowledge that you can take away. One of your previous guests, Yusuf Baudiat,
Yes.
right? He was actually a manager. I never actually worked under him, but he was a manager at Deloitte. And we spoke about this, and I always loved his philosophy on this, is the soft skills that you take away. And that's the reason why CAs are so desired. It's not because of the technical knowledge you take away. Technical knowledge is something that can be learned, right?
It's something that AI can do.
Exactly, right? It's something that AI can do right now.
Scary stuff.
And and the thing is, if you did your articles and you never had the opportunity to work on a, let's say, manufacturing client, and all of a sudden you get a job as a FM of a manufacturing client, you have to learn those technical skills. You have to learn those the technical knowledge surrounding that sort of area.
Yes.
Right. But what you're taking with you are those soft skills. You're taking the project management. You're taking the team management. You're taking the conflict management, because that's something you're going to do a lot during articles, right? You're taking that work ethic with you. And the soft skills is the main thing that we take away from these articles. And again, by skipping that year, the year that really honed in and sort of matured and nurtured those soft skills, that was something that I skipped. And that's where everything just sort of went wrong.
Sure. I mean, I think even about how, if we look at that whole path of being a CA, then CFO, then CEO, I feel like the part of that ability to be a CEO comes from this year, this like kind of third year experience, the soft skills, the conflict management, the project management, the time management, the chaos management. You know, you're being the bridge. That's what a CEO has to do. You have to be the bridge. You have to be the spokesperson. So the speaking part is probably the part that you don't really get through your psycho articles. The actual being a like leader on the outside, like a public facing thing. But that internal, that engine part of leadership, of being there, having the hard conversations, managing different personalities and different people and different projects all at once, that is what you get through this third year. So I actually really thank you for sharing the cautionary tale, because there's a lot of people that have already maybe done a little bit of prior work that are like, this articles thing, it's hectic. You'll do sometimes in busy season 18-hour days for 3 weeks straight, as you said. Like,
Yeah.
it gets hectic, and so take this story and do with it what you will. I'll say that.
Yeah, 100%. And I liked your reference there too. It's the CEOs and everything like that. But look at the greatest leaders, business leaders, right? And I always love this. So I love movies, right? I'm addicted to movies.
You love Star Wars, I assume.
Star
You're wearing a
Wars.
shirt that says sarcasm is strong with this one.
Yeah. And so I love quotes from movies. I'm not, most quotes you'll ever hear me say are from movies. And look, some of them are probably not even true. They were probably in the writer's room, said this would be brilliant. But my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes rather, because there's so many of them. One of my favorite quotes was from the Jobs movie, right?
Okay.
Now, I have no idea if Steve Jobs ever said this in his life, but in the movie, Steve Jobs said, Steve Wozniak, the co-founder, asked him, "What do you do? Like, you don't do coding.
Yeah.
You can't do any of the technical stuff. So what do you do that makes you so desirable?" And they were actually standing in a theater, and he said, "The musicians play the instruments. I play the orchestra." Right? Yeah, the conductor, essentially. So if you look at the greatest business leaders, they're all conductors, right? They get the best people in the best roles, and all they do is play the orchestra. And I think we speak about those skills, the skills that you need to do that, the skills that you need to manage your resources, they born in that third year. Or at least that's the way I feel.
Take from it what you will, dear listener. You do a podcast. You also, similarly to me, you are inspired as well by Stephen Bartlett on the Diary of a CEO. Absolute legend. He's such an inspiration. In fact, part of my starting the podcast in the way that I did to say, guys, I failed, here's a podcast, was actually inspired by Steve. He gave me this like little bit of wisdom on how vulnerability in many ways can be a differentiator, because a lot of people on, especially, places like LinkedIn, it's always, I'm proud to announce.
Yeah.
Right? It's always, congrats. It's always, here I am. Thank you very much. Applause, applause, applause. It's never really like a little bit of real life, which is like, guys, I failed. But I'm working on it. So part of that was even Steve. And you have now spoken to so many people, so many business leaders, so many people that have so much wisdom. What are, maybe you could even pick out one or two, what is the salient lesson or lessons that you've gotten from this period so far?
I'm actually really glad you asked this.
Sure.
Right? So similar to you, when I started the podcast, right?
To be continued in part 2. See you next week.